Mrs. Wiggins, Empty Vow, Love, Honor, Betray, and Double Lives. Now, what do these 4 books have in common? They all come together to comprise a series called Lexington, Alabama, written by Mary Monroe, and this is what I want to discuss in this video. Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to the channel. Visitors, should you happen upon the channel, feel free to join us. We would love to have you here. Subscribers, welcome back. Before I begin, let me say thank you once again to all of my subscribers and visitors, and to our new subscribers. We are growing slowly but surely. We are growing. Now listen, I've never discussed a series from beginning to end before. So this is going to be my first time doing this, and we'll just see how it goes. I am going to talk primarily about the first 3 books, though, because the 4th book, I feel, really has nothing to do with the rest of the series. Hopefully, you'll see what I mean here shortly. Okay, so like I said earlier, the name of the first book of the series is Mrs. Wiggins. Now, this book, like most books or most series anyway, there's more than one storyline, but I am going to follow the main characters primarily. Now, it opens up in the year 1917. Maggie Franklin is 17 years old. Her mother used to be a prostitute many years before she had Maggie, but the townspeople wouldn't let her live it down. Her father is the town drunk, so she had more going against her than she did for her. Now, Hubert Wiggins, on the other hand, his father was a minister and his mother was a beautician. Both Maggie and Hubert are only children, and they were each other's only and best friends. So when she turned 18, I think he turned 19. Or maybe they're the same age, I can't remember, but I believe he's a year older than she is. They got together and decided that they would get married. Now, they're each other's confidants. So she asked him one day why had he never really ever dated. And he confided in her, told her because he was gay. Now, remember, I said we're in 1917, so it was both illegal and morally thought to be a sin, one of the ultimate sins for a person to be gay back then. And I'm pretty sure it didn't help matters that he was black. I think he would have gotten it worse from the black people because that's what he was around for the most part. But anyway, yes. So her secret, she confided in him, was that she had been mistreated, misused, mishandled, everything, that should not have. It had been quite a bit of misappropriation going on with Maggie, and it was done primarily by a family friend. Never really understood whether or not she ever told her parents, but I don't think she did. Well, when they turned 18, they looked around because people, I guess, had started questioning them about why they really did not have any friends. They seemed to be nice enough. They were attractive enough, but they just, okay, once again, please forgive my daughter. She's in there on the phone. Okay, so they decided to get married, and they did. Once they got married, though, they decided that they needed to have a baby so people wouldn't be questioning why they didn't have children. Now, keep in mind, because of what Maggie went through, she had no feeling, none whatsoever, no desire to have sex. She just did not want to have sex with man or woman. She was just A-OK. Hubert, on the other hand, was gay. And so although he enjoyed sex, he didn't want to with his wife. So somewhere along the way, they devised a plan. They decided that Maggie would go out and meet someone, sleep with until she got pregnant. And that's what she did. The baby was born. It was a son. They named him Claude Wiggins. And they raised him as their own, which obviously he was Maggie's. And Hubert raised him as though he was his blood son. Well, Maggie's best friend's name, she eventually became friends with a neighbor named Jesse. Jesse was married to a man named Orville, and Orville was very mentally, verbally, and physically abusive to Jesse. Eventually, Jesse ended up getting pregnant. She had a son who was born with mental challenges. And so, that did not endear Orville to them at all. Maggie would step in when she could to take up the slack. She babysat for him when Jesse had to work. She babysat for Jesse when she had to work. Now, I forgot to tell you also, Maggie came from, I guess, what we would consider a poor part of town. And Claude, by his father being a minister, his uncle ran a funeral home, and he suddenly died of a heart attack one day, but he left the business to Claude. So Claude, for all intents and purposes, inherited the funeral home, plus he also worked at a turpentine mill factory. So they had, just some money that most people didn't have. So after Claude was born, they went on Hubert continued to date men, because remember, he married Maggie as a cover. And the baby was born. Well, at first, they did want Claude. They really wanted children. They just didn't want to go about it the old-fashioned way, as some people say now. But as time goes on, Claude grows up. I don't know, I think he was like 19 years old or so, 20. He meets and starts dating the town tramp, I guess you would call her. She was very promiscuous. She had like 4 children by 4 different men. And obviously this is not what Claude's parents wanted from him. But the more they objected, the more he went towards her. Well, then it got so bold that Daisy started doing little things to try to drive a wedge between Claude and his parents. And it was working, too. So eventually, though, one day, it just got to be too much for Maggie. So the lady's name was Daisy. It just got to be, like I said, a whole lot of too much. And Maggie saw that the only way that relationship would end is if Daisy somehow was deleted. And so that's what happened. Now, after Daisy's deletion, other things happened. That was Maggie's first time doing anything like that. And if she was afraid, she got over it in time, because, let me just put it this way. There were, let me see. Okay. In this whole book, there were 5 deletions. and 2 of them were unintended. Okay, after she did away with Daisy, she worked for this wealthy white woman. Her brother's marriage broke up, and he moved back home with his big sister. But whenever his sister was not at home, he just started taking Maggie and having his way with her. Well, she did that as long as she could, but then she got rid of him too, and that's the one that I say probably people would have understood had she talked, because the wealthy white lady, she became to be good friends with Maggie. She would donate to whatever cause or whatever the church had going on. She bought new pews. She did everything. And I think she needed a friend. She found a friend in Maggie that she didn't have amongst her peers. So I said all of that to say that had Maggie told the lady about what her brother had done or was doing, I think she would have understood and sided with Maggie. But Maggie didn't want to take that chance, I suppose, because she deleted him. Well, best friend Jessie and her husband's bickering. That man went out, and I think he ended up with 3 or 4 children after his wife had their son, Earl. And it just got to where he was just big, bad, and bold. And I guess Maggie had gotten tired of watching Jesse go through. And so he was deleted. Now, all along, Hubert is working. Now, he hired 2 men to help him run the funeral home. And it started doing well. And then it got to the point to where Hubert just started making excuses, going over to the next town to meet with his boyfriends. And so eventually, Hubert decided that he wanted to come clean to his family. And Maggie did everything in her power. She said everything in her power to try to convince him that this is not a good idea. Please don't do this, Hubert. This would be a big mistake. Hubert said he was tired of living a lie. He was willing to risk. That would have been embarrassing not only to Maggie, but to his parents and to his business associates. But he said that he was just tired of lying and tired of trying to hide and tired of. And there was nothing Maggie could do or say to make him change his mind. So one of the things Maggie was known for was her gumbo. Everybody in town loved when Maggie made gumbo. Even Orville. But this one time after she and her husband Hubert had that talk, and she finally accepted that it was nothing she could do to change his mind. She did make some gumbo, and everybody, they came and they got theirs, or she took it to them or what have you. But Claude had been by earlier that day, and she had taken some out for him. No, she took it out for Hubert because he was not there at the time. She took the gumbo out and put it in the refrigerator, but she put arsenic in it. And she put it in the refrigerator. Well, Claude came home, their son came home, and no one was there, but he knew she had made some gumbo. So he went in the refrigerator and got it. He just assumed it was his. He ate it. So that was the first unintended deletion. Well, shortly, Hubert comes home and he finds Claude on the couch, deleted. Well, When Maggie got word, because she doted on Claude. He was both their children, and they both doted on him, but Maggie really doted on Claude. When she found out that he ate the wrong bowl of gumbo, there was no consoling her. But she never confessed to being the reason Claude was deleted. She was just, she cried herself to sleep. She did all of this. But book lover, she was just so inconsolable, as most of us would be. But later on that night, Hubert settled down for what I guess would be considered a fitful night of sleep at best. Maggie got up, went to the kitchen, heated and ate gumbo that she added a dose of arsenic to. Then she went and got on that same couch that their beloved son Claude was found deleted on earlier that day. This is why I say she was an unintended deletion. She just could not live with knowing that she was the reason that her precious Claude was no longer of this earth. And guys, this is basically how this book ends. Now let's move on to the second book, entitled Empty Vows. So as I close this video out, book lovers, let me say thank you once again to all of my subscribers, visitors. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Hopefully you'll feel free to join us over here. And in the meantime, book lovers, remember this. As long as there are books around, there is always something to read. Book lovers, be safe out there, and God bless.